Hi guys, I'm Rhonda, and today I'm going to show you how I made this cute, it's like a French style memo board. It's tufted and upholstered. You can see it's nice and gushy, and I've got it on this cute little easel that I got from the dollar store that was perfect for it. And I'm going to show you how I did this today. Hopefully you can see me okay because it looks like my video quality might be a little off today. So hopefully you can see this well enough to see what I'm doing. I made this using these panels of design foam from Foamology. Now, these come two to a package, and they come in a firm and in a soft. These are the soft tiles. They are adhesive on one side, so this is really super easy to upholster. And I'm going to show you how to do this. I actually got two memo boards out of one piece of foam. There's two pieces of foam in a package. And to make each one of these, I cut the large piece of foam in half. So I have one that is half size. Now I've already pressed and cut some fabric. And if you can see this very well, it's got a nice little like tan floral pattern on white. And I've already, like I said, I've already pressed this and cut it to size. You want to cut it to size so that you have enough room to wrap it around the edge of your foam all the way around. Move this out of my way here. And we'll get started. And you want to put your fabric with the printed side facing down. And then we're going to peel off the backing on this piece of foam. Like so. This comes off in pieces here. And we're going to put the sticky side facing up and center this right in the middle of our foam. And now I'm going to fold in my corners first. I'll hold this up in a sec and show you. As you fold your fabric up, it will stick to this adhesive. It's really super sticky. As you can see there, I've got my four corners folded in. And now I'm just going to go around, and it's kind of like wrap and present. I'm going to, excuse the mess behind me. We're rearranging all of our furniture right now and haven't gotten quite as far as reassembling this room because I need to make more furniture. So anyways, we're going to wrap around here. And don't worry too much about, you can tuck in your corners and make them look all pretty. At the end, I'm actually going to edge my entire board with some pretty upholstery trim. So I'm actually going to cover all of the corners so I'm not being too fussy about how they look. But if you're not planning to edge the finished product out with some trim, you probably want to be really neat about it. Last side here. And, oops, being tricky. There we go. Like I said, you can see my corners are sticking out a little. I'm going to tuck them in a bit, but we're going to, at the end, you can see this trim around the outside. I should see where there was kind of a little bit of puckeriness on my corners there. I've buried it underneath the trim. So nobody knows but me and now you. And those are the kind of little shortcuts that I like sometimes. Not that shortcuts are always a good thing, but sometimes I like them. All right, so now I've got that on. Now, to make the crisscrossy parts, see I'm using a similar, on this one I used a tan, it's like a cotton lace. It is sold as a ribbon. I got this from American Crafts, and I also have some similar that we're going to use for this one that's a nice tealy color. Now because I'm going to flip this back over for a moment, I'm going to put all of these pieces that we peeled off back over the adhesive so that it doesn't stick down to my table here, because I'm going to put this with the patterny finished side facing up here. And actually, pull this a little tighter because I have a little bit of slack there that I don't like. And it's a great thing about this foam is if you're not happy with your placement of the fabric, you can pull it back off and reposition it again. So let's make this just a little tighter all the way around, because we want it to have that sort of bulgy look when we tuft it. We don't want any slack in it. Now, when I originally ordered this particular foam, I did not have this project in mind. This is something I thought of after my original idea. Had I originally had this idea, Foamology does make a version of this foam that is for tufting. The tufting, in case you don't know, is these buttons that are inside, kind of like in the back of like old upholstered chairs. It just gives it this nice gushy look. And so they make one that actually has, it comes with holes in it that you can use to do your tufting. But we're going to make our own holes because I didn't think of this until after the fact. So anyways, now we are going to put this lovely trim across the front side of our board. We're going to lay it out first and figure out how we want it on here. And we're going to lay 2 pieces across diagonally in one direction, and then 2 pieces crossing it diagonally in the other direction. So when you're happy with where these are placed, and I've already pre-cut them so that they are the right length to wrap around here, and you've got them where you want them, simply wrap them around to the back side and stick them onto this lovely sticky adhesive. Actually, I've got to make a little room back here. Come on. It doesn't want to come back off. The longer you have this on here, I think the more it sticks. There we go. I covered up a little more than I wanted to. I'm going to make a little bit of space where I can get the end of this ribbon to the adhesive. There we go. So there's one. You want to try and make them kind of even. You want to make them lay pretty much the same angle as each other going across, and go from as corner to corner as you possibly can. You want to try and have them be basically spread as far apart as you can get them and still have them both be on the same side. I don't know if that makes sense. I'll show you my stuck on ones in a second here. Just got one down and one to go. Oops. And there we go. And across. All right. So when you finish with that, it will look like this. Now we're going to, you can see I have a little uneven. I'm going to adjust that. And then we're going to lay 2 across in the other direction and attach them to the foam as well. Just lay them across. And so the great thing is this is being repositionable like this. If you stick your pieces on and you decide that you don't like the way that they look, you just take them back off and try again. Now I want to try and make this look kind of like diamonds. And actually only going to put 2 buttons on this one. I put 4 buttons on my other one, but this one, it was really kind of hard to squish the 4 buttons into the space So this one I'm only going to do 2 buttons on just because it will be a little bit easier if I was doing a larger one, like if I used the whole piece instead of a half a piece of foam, it would be a lot easier to get more buttons on this. Or if I was using the one that was already pre-punched with holes specifically for tufting. But we're making do, so we're going to work with what we got. And need to just stick these other pieces of ribbon to the back. There's one. And oops, scoot it over. Try and keep the both of your you see how this one was closer to the top corner than this one. So I'm going to scoot this over just a squidge because we want these to be as symmetrical as possible. The crisscrossy bits. So there. Attach this on the back. And one more. Beautiful. I like this. The hardest part for me is always getting things like this even because I kind of am an eyeballer when it comes to these things, and I don't always eyeball everything straight. So I kind of finagle until I get it exactly how I want it. I suppose I could probably measure and get a little more even results a little quicker, but then that starts getting into like math. All right, there we go. I think it's more even. All right. So I'm going to attach my corners. There's one. Oops. Farther up here. Make sure I had just enough ribbon on my roll to get all the way across 4 times. So it was sort of holding my breath when I cut the first one to see if it was going to make it, and I was very, very happy that it did. One more little adjustment. And you want to make sure that you have your crisscrosses exactly how you want them at this point, because once we tuft this and stick the buttons in, it's kind of permanent. You could get it apart, but you would probably destroy it in the process. Just dropped one of my backers. So this, like I said, the whole time here I'm working, I've been keeping the sticky covered as much as I can because I do not want to interfere with that by, sticking myself to it, or just easier to keep it covered. All right, so now we are at this point where we have crisscrosses. The next thing we are going to do is add buttons. I used these. These are called Tack Buttons. They're the type of buttons that they have on jeans. So they have sort of this long shaft on them, which makes them great for this tufting project because it gives a little bit of depth for the, I don't know. Sometimes it's hard to articulate, but now since we don't have holes pre-made for us, I'm going to make holes, and I'm going to use this skewer, and I'm going to go right through right here where these pieces cross. I'm going to go right through the middle with the skewer, go through all of the layers, and just sort of finagle it until my skewer comes all the way out the back side. You can see that. There it is, sticking out the back. So we have entirely skewered the board. And do the same thing at this other crossing. It's a little hard to get started, but once you get going, they push right through. There we go. All right. So now we have skewers stuck through both of our X's. You see what I mean? I would have had to make this area a lot smaller in order to get buttons here and here. They're just too close to the edge. But what do you do? Besides make a bigger bulletin board. Now, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to attach the buttons. So we're going to actually shove one of these skewers back out and follow it out with this little guy. And actually, before I do this, we're going to be hammering. And so I'm going to put this towel down on my table here to protect my table because we're working on my kitchen table and I don't want to make a dent in it, which this will very likely do. All right. So we'll take this guy and pull one of these out. And as you're pulling it out, you see where the hole is on the back side. Stick your little button backer in that hole and then shove with all your might until you make it come out the front. You have to pinch it pretty hard because we are getting it through a lot of layers, and you might have to take the end of your skewer and sort of poke around. It'll kind of get all the little, sometimes it has trouble coming through all of the different fibers and stuff because the tip on the button is a little bit blunt. So you want to keep on going until you see that little glint of metal. I don't know if you can see it. It's just barely sticking out. And then we're going to take this button and we're going to fit it over top of that backer. Make sure you have it lined up the way that you want it. Now I'm going to set this down on my table. And try and keep the button lined up perfectly here. And I find it's easier if you push down on the sides of where you're going to hammer. So it'll help keep this flatter. So making sure that, oops, lost it here. Making sure that the back of the button stays in there. There we go. Press this down on either side of it. And take my hammer. I apologize, this is going to be loud. You might want to cover your ears. We're going to give this a couple of whacks on the back side. And that should be enough. Oops, I missed. I can see what it did. It didn't quite line up. This is the tricky part, is keeping this lined up while you get ready to hammer. That should be better. And there we go. Voila! One attached button. And I'm going to sort of spin it a little bit. It's got a design on it that has sort of a right side up and an upside down. So we're going to spin that, and they do spin kind of hard because they're in there tight, but they will turn. You just have to kind of be patient with them a little bit. Sort of finagle it around. So there is one. Now we're going to do the same thing with the second button. I will save you the trouble of watching me struggle through that because that's the basics of getting this together. Once you've got both of your buttons in, you're going to take from the back side, and I used, this is actually a 9-inch by 12-inch an artist board. It's like a canvas covered board. I happened to buy these because they were the perfect size, the exact size of my memo boards, and they were on sale at my local craft store. They're not the cheapest way to go, but they're really, really easy. I didn't have to do any cutting. I just bought it, brought it home, glued it together. And the canvas back on gives it a nice clean finish on the back. If you don't want it white, since this is a canvas, you can go ahead and just paint it whatever color you want the back side of your board to be. And you're going to just take and glue around the outside edge where all of your fabric is. I just use tacky glue. And then once you have glue all the way around the outside edge, you'll center it with your board and glue it. I glued it with the back side of the board facing in so that the white part faces out. If you look at this one here, you see the back side of it is white. Then I decided that I wanted to do a little bit more after that, so I got two different trims. There's this rope trim and then sort of more of like a lacy trim. I got both of these out of the upholstery trims at my local craft store, and I just used a hot glue gun to glue them on. First, I glued the rope trim. There was a little tiny bit of gap around the edge. You can kind of see where my board was a little bit wider and a little bit taller than the finished memo board. The backer board was. So you can see, I've got a price tag taped on this in case you're wondering what that is, because I'm going to sell it. Anyway, so I hot glued the rope trim on first, and then I glued this other trim around afterwards, right flush up against the rope trim. And I used this to not only to kind of make everything have this nice clean finish look, but it also covered any little puckers or imperfections on my corners. If you've ever done any sort of upholstery, you know that corners are tricky. They can be incredibly frustrating. So this way we just skip having to deal with them. So that is it. Like I said, I just, for display purposes, I found these photo easels at the dollar store that are actually the perfect width. I mean, it's like they were made for these boards. So that is it. I hope you enjoyed this project. Thank you very much to Foamology for sponsoring this project and providing me with this really awesome foam. I think I'm going to need more of it. This is really cool. Too many ideas. Thanks for stopping by. Make sure you check out craftyhangouts.com for more fun crafts, including a bunch more great stuff coming up from Foamology. We'll have crafts from them throughout the year. And yeah, stop by my blog, Mrs. Green. Subscribe to my YouTube channel while you're here to see what I do for my next project. Lots more foamy stuff coming up and other stuff, holiday stuff, all kinds of stuff. So yeah, thanks for stopping by. Stay crafty.